As our vessel entered familiar waters, the sailors leaned across the rail, hopefully watching for the lights of the Wolfstack docks. London. We pulled into the harbor and were greeted by the port authority. One of the officers made a snide comment about our shrinking crew size. He was met with silence. The damage done to the ship's hull, along with the blood in the galley and the echoes of the crew members lost at sea, would make one question just what the hell happened. But that's the nature of the undersea. We made a small memorial for the fallen, and we all took turns giving a brief eulogy. I heard only the sea. We made it back to port. That's what matters. We'll rest for a day, then return to the treacherous waters, to horrifying creatures, to cannibalistic tribes. Why? Because we can. Because we will. Because we must. Sunless Sea is a roguelike RPG which was released on the PC via Steam and GOG in February of 2015. This game so far has been met with fairly high praise, with some websites listing it among the best PC RPGs of all time. But just what is it about this game that makes people sing its praises, and has made me break my 5-month hiatus? Well, let's take a journey into the dark undersea and find out. This game is a continuation of the award-winning free-to-play online RPG, Fallen London. The storyline here is that an Industrial Revolution-era London has sunk beneath the surface and is now home to Neath dwellers, devils, horrific creatures, and people just trying to get by. This is where you come in. You are a new captain setting out to brave the undersea. But why would you do this? Well, the game gives you one of 4 main objectives, and you can also choose a backstory which will give you a skill boost right off the bat. But really, once you leave port, how you progress is largely up to you. There's no time limit, and as long as you can stay alive, fueled, fed, funded, and sane, then you could sail around to your heart's content. The thing is, it's a constant juggling act trying to maintain all of those elements at the same time. You are warned right off the bat that you will lose captains your first time around. In fact, if you can manage to finish a full playthrough of this game on your first try, then you truly are a master at micromanagement. If you misjudge the amount of fuel you need to get back to a safe port, then you are marooned. Sure, you can set out a flare, pray to the fickle gods for a miracle, or try your hand at abandoning ship, but at this point, you're pretty much boned. Run out of supplies? Then you and your crew had better find a way to satiate your hunger before your fellow crew members end up on the menu. But then there's the matter of terror. This meter fills up when sailing through dark waters, being away from London for long periods of time, and it can also fill up when fighting certain enemies. This deceptively important meter will fill up much faster than anticipated, and will cause all sorts of problems for you and your crew. From ghostly apparitions stealing your crew members, to your sailors attempting a mutiny against you. In short, keep a constant eye on this gauge. As you gain more money, you can upgrade your ship with various engines, weapons, storage units, and you can even purchase new vessels. Ranging from heavily used steamboats, to cutter-class vehicles used largely for avoiding enemies, and even a rather large merchant vessel which I absolutely did not use to smuggle illegal contraband into London, Your Honor. But hey, maybe you want to get a little more storyline unlocked. Well, each officer that you can obtain has their own storylines, and completing most of them will unlock you either a more effective skill bonus, or even special items such as experimental weapons and engines. Or maybe you wish to play politics. Well, in that case, you can cast your lot in with the multiple governments which are all vying for control of the undersea. Heck, you can even get a sweetheart back in London, have a child, send that child to sea, have an affair with an officer, attempt to talk your way out of it, sell your soul, journey to the surface for short periods of time, build a zeppelin for apes, grow a metal heart out of human cadavers, kill sentient icebergs, and smuggle souls between islands. All of this, by the way, can be achieved in a single playthrough. If you die or finish the game in various other ways, then you can continue your lineage with another captain. Each successive captain can gain a single skill bonus along with another gift depending on your choice of successor. Also, you can do other side quests which will give you even more bonuses right off the bat. In fact, if you're wise enough, you can also write a will and create heirlooms which will then be rolled over to the next person in your lineage. But here's the fun part. Remember how I said this game was a roguelike? Well, that means that every time you start with a new captain, barring one specific lineage, the islands rearrange. Thankfully, they only rearrange within certain barriers, and the major ports never move. But this can make for a decent challenge when restarting, along with providing a somewhat fresh experience each time around. I honestly can't even guess how long it should take to complete this game. After losing 5 captains, I managed to finish one of the easier storylines, but that was after a total of 50 hours and quite a bit of goofing off. What's even better was I managed to complete a second playthrough after roughly 10 hours, so yeah, this game's a time burner. Now let's get back to the reviewing, shall we? The graphics of this game are pretty basic, but I feel that they do a decent enough job. Between the text box storyline and painted-on visuals, this game really does feel like a retro RPG, and I feel that in this case, having to use your imagination can really add to the horror elements of the game. Especially once you start hallucinating. Gameplay-wise, I feel that almost everything works as it should. Sailing is extremely basic, and navigating the various text boxes and menus work like a charm. This is only noticeable because I didn't notice the text navigation at all. However, there are 2 elements of the gameplay to keep in mind. First off, this game is very slow-paced. Right off the bat, your ship will be very sluggish, and finding money to upgrade will take a while if you don't know where to look. Now, you can upgrade your engines to get around more quickly, but even the highest powered engine in the lightest ship isn't really all that nippy. Plus, you'll probably want to move up to the larger, heavier ships, which will move more slowly and burn through fuel at an obnoxious rate. By the way, here's a free tip. Personally, I never had too much of a problem with this. In fact, it sort of reminded me of the sailing in Wind Waker. Yes, it does take a while and it can become tedious, but in that game, I feel like it added to the adventurous atmosphere. In this game, however, the calculated pace creates a sense of unease as you're constantly checking your supplies and praying you have enough to make it back to port. This greatly adds to the horror element of the game and made me constantly check my map to see how close I was to the next island. The only other issue I had with this game is the combat system. Now, there's nothing necessarily wrong with it, but once you figure out how to manipulate the enemy AI, then even high-leveled enemies become a cakewalk. Seriously, I beat the second highest leveled enemy in the game without taking any damage by simply sailing circles around it and taking pot shots. Just don't get too cocky and take on high-leveled enemies when your hull is already damaged from 2 other high-leveled foes. I may be speaking from experience. The soundtrack is also very well put together. While it only consists of 21 tracks, some of which only play around specific ports or during specific endings, they are all very appropriately put together. But as for the story, well, this is one of the most intricately written games I've ever played. There are so many twists and turns to the plot, and each time around you can change how the majority of the events play out. Heck, if you want, you can intentionally sacrifice your entire crew to a demonic altar just because you can. The Lovecraftian elements of horror are abundant in the narrative, and the choose-your-own-adventure elements ensure that you can be playing this game for potentially hundreds of hours. So, if you're ready to brave the horrors of the Neath and sail the Sunless Sea, then this game can be picked up for just under $20. But as for me, I'll continue to sail the undersea, discover new horrors, find romance, lose my mind, and eat my crew.